What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 65 of the Be Great podcast. Just some housekeeping things here today. Next week, there will not be an episode. I will be gone on vacation, so do not be expecting an episode next week. But this week, I wanted to talk about a couple things. I wanted to talk about mainly stuff having to do with the upcoming college football 26 video game because I haven't really talked about it yet, but they had a dynasty deep dive earlier today, which I thought was phenomenal, and it got me in the mood to want to talk about it. They also released their top 25 toughest places to play in the game, and I'm going to critique that. And we're also going to talk about the two players who are on the cover of Madden, Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to start with the two guys on the cover. Look, I think we all understand why Jeremiah Smith is on the cover. They won the national championship. He's easily the best player in college football. It is what it is. Okay, that's to be expected. Ryan Williams should not be on the cover of this game. It should be Jeremiah Love. And if you want to make the argument, oh, well, we wanted because they're both freshmen, they're both receivers, and that's really where the comparison ends, because you can't say they both tore up college football. Ryan Williams did not tear up college football. Ryan Williams had 2 games over 100 receiving yards, one of them being against Western Kentucky. Let's just be real here. Ryan Williams had a viral play against Georgia, the spin move, and then did really a whole lot of nothing the rest of the year. Okay? He had 8 total touchdowns. Let's see, how many of those? 2, 3, 4. So half of those 8 touchdowns came to Western Kentucky, South Florida, and Mercer. He did not come close to 1,000 yards. He got 865. Can we just be real here? He had 48 receptions, which is fine. But he had 8, and I'm talking about receiving touchdowns, by the way. He had 8 receiving touchdowns. I think he might have had a couple rushing touchdowns on like jet sweeps or whatever, but receiving touchdowns, which is what we're talking about here, he had 8. Half of those being to cupcakes. Okay? He had a really good game against Georgia. He had a really good game against Western Kentucky. But let's look at their losses for a second. He had only 73 yards, 1 touchdown, in a loss to Tennessee, 82 yards and a touchdown in a loss to Vanderbilt. Couldn't even get over 100 yards against Vanderbilt. And only 37 yards against Oklahoma. And by the way, in the bowl game against Michigan, a whopping 3 receptions for 8 yards. Jeremiah Smith wouldn't be caught dead having only 8 yards receiving in a football game. Speaking of Jeremiah Smith, how many games did he have over 100 yards? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 games over 100 yards receiving. One of them against Oregon, another against Tennessee, another against Oregon again, and then, he had one against Western Michigan, and then, whatever you want to say about Northwestern. At least they're an SEC team. I counted the touchdown Ryan Williams had against Vanderbilt, so I'm going to count it for Jeremiah Smith against Northwestern. And touchdowns, not even close. Jeremiah Smith had almost double the amount of touchdowns. He had way more yards. He had about 500 more yards than Ryan Williams. Why are they on the cover together? It should be Jeremiah Smith and Jeremiah Love. They're both named Jeremiah. It's right there for you. They're both teams who were in a national championship. They're 2 of the better players in college football. It's a layup, but no, you want to choose Ryan Williams, a guy who's on a team who didn't even make the playoff. Good choice. Really good choice. It's not as bad as Donovan Edwards being on the cover last year, but it's not great. It's not great. These are two very questionable decisions years in a row for cover athletes for this game. I called out Donovan Edwards being the cover last year, and he proved my point by barely doing anything. Ryan Williams is not the same as that, but he still shouldn't be on the cover. He hasn't proven enough. Have 1,000-yard receiving first, buddy. Okay. But I am very excited about the video game. Just putting that out there. I'm very excited. I was very happy with College Football 25, and I'm excited for College Football 26. But I want to get more for most of this episode. I want to get into their toughest places to play. So they released the top 25. So I'll just read the top 25 in case you don't know. 1 is LSU, 2 Penn State, 3 Ohio State, and these are just their stadiums. This isn't how they're ranked in the game. 4 Georgia, 5 Alabama, 6 Clemson, 7 Florida, 8 Oklahoma, 9 Oregon, 10 Michigan, 11 Texas A&M, 12 Tennessee, 13 Texas, 14 Florida State, 15 Wisconsin, 16 South Carolina, 17 Auburn, 18 I was about to say Wisconsin again. 18 is Washington, 19 is Iowa, 20 is Utah, 21 Notre Dame, 22 NC State, 23 Oklahoma State, 24 Michigan State, and 25 Mississippi State. I have said this a number of times, and I'm just going to repeat. I have this take, and it's a hot take for sure. You know, everyone says that LSU is the best home field advantage and is the toughest place to play. And for the most part, I think that is true. The reason I say for the most part is it's for a few reasons. Okay? Here is my issue with LSU always being considered number one toughest places to play. Number one home field advantage. My issue is that is true and a true statement if you're playing LSU at Baton Rouge at night. That is 100% true. But the reality is that is not true if you play LSU at noon or 3:30, which would be 11 a.m., 2:30 in Baton Rouge. You see, the SEC and these TV networks, they pretty much only schedule LSU home games at night. Just look at their schedule last year. Look, I'm going to tell you the times each of their home games started at. Nichols at 7:30 at night. UCLA was at 3:30, to be fair. South Alabama, 7:45 at night. Ole Miss, 7:30 at night. Alabama, 7:30 at night. Vanderbilt, 7:45 at night. Oklahoma, 7 at night. One game that wasn't 7 o'clock or later. Didn't have a single home game that was at noon. Their only noon game was on the road at South Carolina. Didn't have a single home game on the road, or didn't have a single noon game at home, and had one home game that was before 7 o'clock, and it was against UCLA, who was traveling across the country to come play you. A game in which they struggled in, by the way, which is exactly my point. When LSU doesn't play at night, that home field advantage goes away immediately. It vanishes. I still remember, I don't remember how many years ago it was, 2, 3, I doubt 4 years ago, when LSU played Tennessee at LSU. I think, and I'm pretty sure it was a noon game, and Tennessee beat the crap out of them because that home field advantage only works in night games. And in my opinion, I feel as if it is wrong to say and give a team number one home field advantage and to say they're the toughest place to play if it is dependent upon the fact that you have to play them at night. When there are other schools, other programs who it doesn't matter what time of day it is a nightmare to play there. It is harder to play at Florida at noon and 3:30 than at LSU. It's harder to play at Georgia at noon and at 3:30 than it is at LSU. It's harder to play at Auburn at noon and 3:30 than it is at LSU. That's the reality. And look, LSU has their stamp on the night games. I am not going to argue that when it comes to night games, LSU is by far the toughest place to play. 100%. But should they be number one, really, when networks pander to that fact and when they aren't challenged to have that same home field advantage at other times of day, like other teams are? It's a simple question. I mean, how is it fair to sit there and say, oh, well, LSU 100% is a tougher place to play than Georgia? Honestly. Because look at this year. Georgia's first 3 games are at 3:30. And I don't want to hear, oh, it's because Georgia plays Marshall and Austin Peay. LSU played South Alabama. Who were the other ones? LSU played South Alabama, Nicholls. Yes, South Alabama and Nicholls at 7:45 and 7:30. Don't give me that crap. Georgia plays at 3:30 first 3 weeks of the season. Finally gets a night game against Alabama, but then they get a noon game against Kentucky. That Auburn game, I guarantee you, is not going to be a night game. That game's usually at 3:30. The Florida game is always at 3:30. Mississippi State, noon. Our game against Charlotte, 12:45. Georgia Tech, 3:30. Georgia rarely gets a night game. The only way Georgia gets a night game is if we actually have a big opponent coming. LSU just gets handed them. Oh, your Vanderbilt's coming to town? 7:45. Oh my gosh. The school of the deaf and the blind are coming? Huh, let's make it at 9 p.m. I'm just saying. I'm just simply pointing something out. If you put LSU 1, I'm not going to say you're necessarily wrong. I'm not. I just feel like more people need to point this out. And there needs to be more of a dialogue about it, in my opinion. And my mom is going to hate that I'm saying this. But I believe that it's just facts. I have a huge problem, though, with who this game has at 2. Penn State. Penn State, let me just make one thing clear. Penn State is a bunch of whiteout merchants. Merchants. And they're not even that great in the whiteouts. They're only 9-6. They've had 15 full stadium whiteouts. 15. So you would think, oh, they're probably like 12-3. Nope, 9-6. You probably wouldn't even make the playoffs in the NFL with that record. 9-6. You wouldn't make the college football playoff with that record. 9-6. But that's their full stadium whiteout record. And the fact of the matter is that every time a big game, a big opponent comes into that stadium, comes into Beaver Stadium, Penn State falls short. Their home field advantage is overblown, way overblown. Georgia, Ohio State, Florida, Auburn, Tennessee, all harder places to play than Penn State. Texas A&M, definitely harder to play than Penn State. I would say Texas is harder to play than Penn State. Auburn is way too low on this list, by the way. Auburn's at 17. I hate to tell you this. Auburn is not an easier place to play compared to Wisconsin and Florida State. Florida State won 2 games last year. Is anyone showing up to their games? Did I miss something? Florida State went 2-10 last year. Home field, what? And you're telling me Michigan is a tougher place to play than Tennessee and Texas A&M and Auburn and South Carolina? You're outside of your mind. You are outside of your mind. Honestly. It's absurd. I would argue Arkansas should be on this list. I'm shocked. I guess I understand why Mississippi State's on here, but I think Arkansas should be in here over NC State and Michigan State and Oklahoma State. I mean, those 3 teams right there are 3 teams that. When was the last time they were relevant? But I guess maybe that's not fair to say because you could argue when was the last time Arkansas was relevant. So I guess that would be a fair point. But Arkansas gave Texas troubles. Lots of troubles at Arkansas last year. I just think people really just don't understand some home field advantages because some have been so overblown over the years that it's become like this thing where, oh, well, of course this place is hard to play. I've heard so many things. But, like, where's the evidence and the proof of it? I've heard time and time again from people at Barstool, for example, there was someone at Barstool who said Sanford Stadium, Georgia Stadium, is like a library, which tells me a few things. It tells me, one, they clearly, the last time they were in Sanford was probably when Mark Richt was head coach. Number 2, I think you're deaf. Those are the 2 things it tells me. I was at the Georgia game when Arkansas came into town for a noon game, not a night game, a noon game. And it was deafening in there. My mom was there. She could tell you. Well, I don't want any of you talking to my mom, but you get my point. I think Holly Rowe was the sideline reporter for that game because College Game Day was there because that was a year Arkansas was ranked because they had started like 3-0, 4-0, something like that. Holly Rowe was there. She said it broke the Penn State whiteout decibel. I mean, it was a noon game in Athens against Arkansas. I think people just don't get it. They don't get it. They think just because this team wins a lot at home. Like, I'm not even like going to sit here and be like, oh my, but Georgia's won like 31 games in a row at home, because that's a misleading statistic. Because obviously not all those games are against really good opponents, and just because you're a good team doesn't mean that your home field advantage is really good. Like, that's like Alabama, for example. Like, during Nick Saban's time at Alabama, they always, of course, played well and they won a lot at home, but no one was saying that Alabama was the number 1 home toughest places to play because they had such good teams that, I mean, it didn't really matter where they played. They could play in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it doesn't really matter. They were going to win regardless. But I want to change the narrative around home field advantages, because we just give teams and atmospheres so much credit for so little and no evidence, and we just let things slide that we should not let slide. LSU should be forced to play more noon and 3:30 games. Period. Prove to us you're the best home field. Play it. Show up at 2:30 and cause an earthquake or whatever. Because we sure haven't seen that in a while. Hey, Penn State, how about you go wide out and actually win? How about you go wide out against Ohio State? See how that goes for you. I can tell you how it would go for them. They would lose. Because that's what they do in big moments. I'm not going to count them doing a wide out against Indiana or Illinois or something. Give me a break. It's like if Georgia did oh my gosh, like if Georgia did a blackout thing every year, like Penn State does their whiteout, and we were like, oh my gosh, did you see Georgia's atmosphere in their blackout crowd against Austin P? Like, come on, or against Kentucky? Like, come on now. Can we just be real? Can we be honest? But that's all I got for today. Like I said, I will not have an episode next week, but I'll be back the week after that. We'll be in July officially, really close to football. And I think what I'm going to do for that episode, since I'm talking about toughest places to play, you know what? I'll give my top 10 toughest places to play. And I need 2 weeks to think about it. I need 2 weeks. I know I'm gonna get my I'm gonna be on vacation with my family. I'm sure my mom's gonna try and convince me. But Grayson, LSU is tough to play. We went to a game together. This is true. We went to a game together. It was great, but it was also against Army, so it's not like I was like witnessing, oh my gosh, it's getting rowdy in here as we're up 50-0. But it was a cool atmosphere. I'll give them credit. They painted the end zones army print or whatever you want to call it, camouflage, sorry. And they had these guys parachute down onto the field. Very cool. That was cool. But I'll be back then. I'm going to do extensive thinking and research on these toughest places to play. And yes, just to go ahead and spoil, there will probably be a lot of SEC teams. Okay. But I hope everyone has a great Tuesday. Don't forget to go out there and be great.